Welcome to our podcast, Season of Tears, where we take a look back at what happened that July 40 years ago. Joining us today is Manik. Welcome, Manik. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shami. Now, this is my perspective is contrary to a lot of the victims of 83 riots, because if you really look at it in that context, I'm Sinhalese, I'm Buddhist, whereas the victims were always seen as the Tamils, Hindus, whatever that bracket within Tamils in our own context. So I think it's not only the Tamils or the Sinhalese Tamils who got affected by the 83 riots. I think it's in general the humanity.
Absolutely. And as a child, you were a child at that time.
Like I was only 11 years old. I was living in W.D. Silva Mawata flats, which was very prominently known as Tamil flats, because there were 40 houses. 36 were occupied by Tamil, 3 of Muslim origin, and we were the only Sinhalese family.
Were they the Bambalapitiya flats, Manik? Or
they were Wellawatte.
Wellawatte.
They were Wellawatte flats. So now before the Black July, now I was born and raised in Matale. My first friends were Babi and Rajan. We were sharing a house. So then I lived in Norelia. There was again a Tamil community. And we never saw any one of us as Sinhalese or Tamil until possibly Black July, right? So before Black July, if you really look at it, we never felt a difference as an 11-year-old. So we played together, we ate from each other's houses, we talked in broken Sinhalese, broken Tamil, we exchanged sweet meat during Pongal, Deepavali, then the Ramazan or Christmas or New Year. So we were just children, right? We played hopscotch, we rode bicycles, we had playhouses, we did all together, and we never felt that there was a difference of us. We were just children, we were just the same age, we had the same interests, so be it. But I think everything in our world flipped upside down on that fateful Black July, 23rd July of 83.
Absolutely.
Because my mom and dad had to brave the Sinhalese mob who saved the flat from being looted and burnt whilst hiding an abandoned Tamil lady under our own bed as the armed, angry Sinhalese mob entered the flat. So this is not, I don't think, in reality, something me as 11-year-old and my sisters who are much younger than should have experienced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because childhood, this scars for life. I think even as a Sinhalese, now when I reflect back 40 years after, I think it really scarred, made us a bit insensitive to certain things, because since then we have never seen the end of these kind of things. So
no, that's absolutely a valid point, Manik, that you're making, because at the end of the day, people don't realize that how much it impacts little children. You go
exactly, because children remember the things they experience more than what is them being told.
That's right.
So I think we eventually had to, during just the span of about a day, we had to evacuate the flat where we lived for months with another family friend. And during that time, my dad worked very hard. He was involved with cooperatives and essential services to keep all the victims, the more or less the refugees, basically being fed and kept. And we had our family friends who are in the refugee camps, right? We had never seen them like with just the nightie and the house coat they were in. They had to go in the sarong, they didn't have anything. So we kept giving them the clothes, etc. But what happens is that despite that, when we came back, right, our Tamil family friends, like whom we were playing about, they were displaced. We never saw them ever since, right? And then they were probably forced to hide. They were forced to migrate. So we had never seen, heard, or anything of them. So, and on that day we were in school, we had exams, term test, and everything shut down. We came home. I very vividly remember from Timbrigasaya Junction, there was a shop that we used to buy our groceries, the
Right?
Satya stores. I
Oh,
very, very vividly remember they're burning everything down, and we are driving through that flames, the big toffee bottles and dry rations were set on fire. Right upon coming home, I saw a sage green mini miner or some Volkswagen type of a little car being burnt. I can't remember whether there were people in it or not.
uh-huh.
And the thing that stuck with me really badly was your death, life or death is being decided by just a word. Whether you called a bucket, a baldia or a valdia,
That's
determine
right.
whether you're going to live or not. Because this later on in life, when I read Midnight Express by Jane Lapra, I realized the same thing happened at the board of Lahore.
Oh, I
So
see.
that Midnight Express train. So the thing is, looking back now as a grown up, as a mom, as a citizen of a country where we expect it far better than this. We don't see this happening in UK, luckily.
Yeah.
We lost faith in humanity at that point. So upon our return, the funny part is we came back after a few months back to the flat. No one dared talk with us. Not only Bharati, because we were very friendly. No one, like everybody, even the Malays, the Hindus, the Muslims, we felt like we became the common enemy for
And
some
it's so
reason.
sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sad because they shared, before that we shared murukku with them, we rode bicycles with them. So I don't think it was very conducive for us to be living there any longer. So living on WD Silamawata was definitely not conducive any longer. So we moved out to Batramulla. But I think except with DIJ Gafur, who was there in the same flat, we never maintained no one maintained contact. So to date, despite the fact that I have a lot of my close friends being Tamils and Muslims, I think it was just a childhood lost.
Yes.
Lost humanity, lost faith, and making us sensitive to a lot of things since then. Nothing went, even after 2009 war. I don't think it just never bridged that gap. It's sad, Shami. You and I can
Yes.
have that experience living in India, living here in the UK. We have had a better deal.
That's right.
Overall, I think we don't have that gap that much because because we were lucky enough to get a better or more let's say more human
And also sort of like a
exposure.
broader understanding of, like having traveled and having, like maybe expanded our horizons a bit, I guess.
Exactly. I think that gap always widened, and with every single bomb blast, whether by the militants or by the government or anything that was captured, we came to a point that whether if you are safe, your family is safe, well, nothing matters. We carried on like being very insensitive to it. So I think we are in a really bad generation. Like, we were born with the insurgency in 71, 72. Every single time we have seen death, it became very normalized.
Yes.
So you become thinking, oh, if it is not your family, well, we are sad, but we carry on, because I think that's what the war does eventually to people, whether it happens in Sri Lanka or anywhere else. This conflict, war, racism, ethnicity based divisions, this is what we do, is eventually it takes a toll on the humanity.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, like, the whole point of even this podcast is to look back and not just at, like you said, the Tamil victims of it, because in a sense all Sri Lankans were victims of this tragedy.
Exactly.
Right. And the thing is, politicians for so long have used this war, ethnicity, religion to divide rather than unite. And from your story, it is sad because you were displaced too from your home because of these.
In a way.
Yeah. And then as a child, I can't imagine, like, you come back, these are friends you had, and then suddenly they stop talking to you because of all of this
Yeah,
happened.
suddenly you don't have friends, because for a 11-year-old, 9-year-old, 6-year-old,
Yeah,
that's a whole world, right? You just go to
yes,
nursery or daycare or school and come back, and that's a whole world revolves around what happens after 1:30.
that's
And
right.
then suddenly you are only left to your own siblings, and that's not an easy thing. So that actually, luckily for us, it didn't damage our human relationship, because like you rightly said, we have had better exposure, travel, everything has brought us become better humans at the end of the day than the people who, if you're stuck in that, okay, they didn't speak to us, I'm not speaking to them. But
Yeah,
luckily it didn't happen, because we were exposed to a varied type of people, and we still maintain very good relationships. Like as I said previously, I have like
yes,
very, very close Tamil and
yes,
Muslim friends, and Christians, Catholics. I think I'm very,
open.
very rounded in that
Yes, yeah.
manner, and I'm lucky. I just only place it on my luck
No, I know. And the
to
thing
be
is,
able
like,
to.
yeah, as I was saying, I don't know if it's like a Sri Lankan tendency or what, like to sweep it under the carpet, like, okay, let the past be in the past. And when we were trying to do this podcast, that is what we found, that a lot of Sri Lankans were saying to us, it happened in 83, 40 years ago, leave it. But we thought, the way to move forward is to actually look back and share our experiences, because it hurt everybody, every single Sri Lankan, of course, the Tamil community more so, but
Yeah.
definitely every Sri Lankan lost out, I think.
Yeah, see, the fact, Shami, remains like you and I are in the UK, right?
Mm.
What bind us is basically the food and baila, right?
Yeah,
Spices and baila. Because like irrespective of whether we are Tamil or Sinhalese, here
yes,
in a country, in somebody else's country, we live very harmoniously.
yes,
We live
yes.
in harmony. We eat from all the
Dosa
we
shops
eat from the
and
right?
yeah,
Right? Then what do? We dance to anything baila, right? At the end of the day.
true.
So what is it? It's a culture that binds us, right? It's part of our culture. Spice is part of our culture. Music is part of our culture.
Yes,
But the problem is we harp more on the differences.
yes,
When we are back in Sri Lanka, we harp more about the differences. But here we find the commonality
that's right.
where we can enjoy things in harmony. So I think it's a terrain as well. Or
When you have
especially when
so
you're
much,
out of the.
yeah, when there's
Yeah,
so much to celebrate about being Sri Lankan, we always seem to find things to divide us.
exactly. I think politicians are using it very well, isn't
Oh,
it?
yes, absolutely. I
I
mean,
think if we were let to be without politics in the whole thing, the first thing
yes,
is, if there was no politics, this wouldn't have happened,
yes,
right?
yes,
Secondly, if politics didn't harp about these things and took mileage, political mileage, and let the people resolve this, we would have come to terms much easier. I think, I think rightfully, I think the Tamils were the victims at that point, but we shouldn't discount the fact that even Sinhalese is not necessarily because I got displaced as a child for a few months, but it's just that the scar that leaves, right? It takes a long time to heal.
yes.
And a lot of people don't even heal because they get fed in by politicians, the religious clergy, etc., and it engraves deeper and deeper. That's why I always say we were the lucky people who we could move on because of our exposure, and then the kind of thinking pattern we were constantly being bombarded with, right? Be peaceful, let it go, let's address this. This is a kind of conversation. I think the reconciliation part should come first within the heart. Reconciliation
Yes,
can't happen on document.
yes, yes.
It's how much can we move on.
Yeah. And I think
Right.
this is a good,
And move.
40 years since that day.
Yeah.
I think it's time to heal, to move on, and really, talk to each other about their experiences, because for some people it's a very raw experience. For others, it's a feeling of confusion. And this is why your story is interesting, even more so, because as a Sinhalese, you face that displacement, you face that hurt, and yet you've been able to move on, right?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of questions that was left. The unanswered questions. Why why is that green car being burnt? Why are people being asked to decide life and death based on a B or a V?
That's right.
So those are the little things I think eventually you need to come to a realization and address it, rather than, as you rightly said, brushing under the carpet and say, oh, now we don't have a war, we are very peaceful, we reconcile. No, it doesn't happen. Because in India, if you really look at it, you and I both had exposure to India and Indian history.
Yeah.
Still the Pakistan-Indian grudge
Yes.
is going on. Why people don't reconcile? People always keep saying the story of their side.
That's right.
Only.
Yes.
So the grandparents will tell the grandchildren
Yes.
about how they felt at the partition,
Yes.
right? What happened to them at the partition, without realizing the same thing happened to the people other side of the river.
That's
tracks.
Absolutely.
So I think it's always a single-sided story, because history is always written by the victors.
Yes.
No one writes the side of the story of the defeated.
That's right. That's right.
Any history in the world, everybody's it's a victor's perception. So it is all the understudy that goes down unrecognized is the defeaters, because in a part of anything there's a victors and defeaters. So I think it's always better if we can come to a forum where we see the both sides.
Yes.
Before we try, the only way we can heal is like understanding both perspectives.
Yes.
You can't have single perspective and single track and start thinking we are going to heal because we know our side of the story. Our side of the story is maybe much different to the other side of the story. So there will be always gaps. So bridging that gap is the only way we could heal and reconcile sustainably. Otherwise, it will always be a very superficial one.
Absolutely. And that is such a valid point that you're making.
Because we always see our side of the story and we always try to justify our side of the story.
Yes.
But the bigger story, bigger picture is much bigger, much depth, which I don't think, as you and me even, we have understood that far, because we had never digged into that. Or whether we didn't have a need to do it, probably. But the people who are deeply scarred has a deeper need than possibly you and I.
Yes.
Because we have one incident to hook on to and say, oh, we lost our childhood. We lost our childhood friends at the age of 11. But we moved on. We made new friends. Yes. We developed that context, the trust, everything with still people of the Tamil or Muslim origin or a Sinhalese origin, Catholic or Christian origin. So we done that because I think we were just lucky.
I guess so.
Yeah, but not everybody has it. So when you not everybody is having it, you need to have a process where we need to dig in, understand and appreciate, and then work on that at that point.
And hopefully, it will be the underlying theme is never again. Never should Sri Lanka undergo
never again
83 or 77, or indeed the anti-Muslim riots, which are far more recent.
Everything.
So,
it's not only anti-Tamil, anti-Sinhalese, but it's anybody anti shouldn't happen, only because we are in that 21st century where we don't have to take arms to resolve conflict. We can sit around a table, we can discuss, we can agree, disagree, agree to disagree. I think the key thing that at least in our generation we need to learn is agree to disagree. Because we don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to disagree on everything. We can agree to disagree. But you should do it in a peaceful manner where you don't take arms, where you don't put physical violence or mental violence for that matter, but talk in open, honest forums to bring these things out. Because unless we talk, we are never going to resolve anything.
No. And also
it's a very classic example is us.
Yes. Yeah. And also listening to each other, to different communities in Sri Lanka, giving, listening to what their grievances are and coming to a common platform, really.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't assume.
Yes.
Because our problem is we assume X person was hurt this way by this action. But we really don't know whether it's the same action or the same thought or same words that hurt. It may be something completely different.
That's it.
So that's why I say the dialogue is the most open, honest dialogue is the most important thing without biases.
Yes.
Where we actually understand it, because without understanding it, it's like putting a plaster over thing. You're not healing anything, right? So I think, in all honesty, that is where we should be.
That is absolutely spot on, Manik. I mean, it has been very enlightening speaking to you, and thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you,
experiences.
Shami, for inviting. It was a pleasure being able to express the whole thing, how I felt. Probably because a lot of people like me who felt the same. So we don't know until we find out. We don't know. So
Yes.
anyway, thank you so much for inviting.
Thank